All right, guys. So some of this might be a review, but let's go over it just to make sure. This is going to be the first section that we look at in chapter 10, and we're going to be solving radical equations. You've done something similar to this, solving quadratics with radicals. You could think of this as the opposite. So a radical equation is an equation that contains a radical expression. So I will radical expression with a variable in the radical like you see in the bottom. So in order to do this, if two expressions are equal, then the squares are also equal. So if I say 5 is equal to 5, well, then that must mean that 5 squared is also equal to 5 squared. And you can see that I have 25 is equal to 25. Perfect. So let's put this into practice. Now, solving each equation, we must first always make sure that the square root of x is by itself, or the radical with any expression is isolated on either side of my equation. So you'll see that I need to subtract 5x on both sides, and I get the square root of x is equal to 8. And we saw that if we squared both sides, the square root will cancel the squared, or vice versa, and I get x equal to 64. Done. If you wanted to check, we're going to take this number, substitute it back into the equation. If you get a statement that is true, your calculations are correct. If it's not, double check this work first. If that seems to work out, then you want to take a look at the equation one more time. Oh, here's another example. Here I have 3 minus the square root of x is equal to 0. Again, we must isolate the variable. So first, I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. Actually, an easier way would be to add the square root of x on both sides. This way you're not doing two operations, but one. So again, I'm going to square both sides, and you will see that x is equal to 9. Great. Again, you can check and notice that it works out, so it's exactly what we're supposed to do. Now I'd like you to try. So, solve the equation. The square root of x is equal to x. Hopefully you got 36. Perfect. Square root of x minus 7 is equal to 3. Hopefully you saw that that was 100. Adding 7 on both sides, you get 10. 10 squared is 100. Perfect. 2 more. Square root of y plus 15 is equal to 22. Again, subtract 15 on both sides, square that, and you get y is equal to 49. And last one, I have 1 minus the square root of c is equal to negative 2. Hopefully you saw that it was 9. Since this last one is a bit different, the way that I would have handled this, although there's multiple ways to start, but I would have subtract 1 on both sides, negative square root of c is equal to negative 3, divide by negative 1 to leave me with square root of c is equal to positive 3, square c is equal to 9. Great, let's move on. Here, now it gets a little more complicated, but I promise these are just basic arithmetic that we have been doing since the beginning. So in this case, I want to subtract 3 on both sides, leaving 19 minus 3 is 16. Now I have to get rid of this 4, so I'm going to divide 4 on both sides. 4 divided by 4 is 1, leaving me with the square root of x plus 2 is equal to 4. Now I must square both sides. Notice that it's a little bit different because I have this plus 2 here. However, I'm just going to bring it down just like I normally do and subtract 2 on both sides, and you get your answer as x is equal to 14. Great. Again, you can check your answer and you will see that it does in fact check out. Okay, now we have a cube root. We haven't dealt with much of these. However, the process is the same. When we had a square root, we squared on both sides. If we have a cube root, we'll cube both sides. Fourth root, we'll raise each side of the equation to the 4th power. So the first thing that we must do is cube. This is the cube root, so we must cube both sides. I get 5x minus 2 is equal to 1,728. Adding 2 on both sides, then dividing by this 5, you will get x is equal to 346. So again, just to make it clear, after I add 2 on both sides, you will see you get 5x is equal to 1,730 divided by 5, and you will get x is equal to 346. Told you it would have been easy. Now, I'd like you to take a try. For the first one, hopefully you got x is equal to 12. So we're supposed to subtract 7 on both sides. And I get the square root of x plus 4 is equal to 4. Square both sides because this is a square root. X plus 4 is equal to 16. Minus 4 on both sides. X is equal to 12. Now here you have 15 is equal to 6 plus the square root of 3w minus 9. Hopefully you got w is equal to 30. Same process as the one on the left. Here you see cube root of z minus 4 is equal to 1. Hopefully you saw that z was equal to 125. Reason why, I add 4 on both sides. The cube root of z is equal to 5. Now I must cube both sides. And I get z is equal to 125. Because this is 5 times 5 times 5. Gives me 125. Now I have the cube root of 3c plus 7 is equal to 10. And hopefully you got c is equal to 331. Again, this is the same process as the other 3. Okay, just a few more examples here. I have x is equal to the square root of x plus 6. A little different because now I have a variable on the left side. Before we only had numbers. So the process, however, is still the same. I'm going to square both sides. And then that leaves me with x squared is equal to x plus 6. I'm asking you to solve for x. So you should notice that it is now a quadratic. And with quadratics, I have to factor. So what are the factors of negative 6 that add to negative 1? Hopefully you said negative 3 times 2. That's a positive 2. And you would see that you can then factor. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Perfect. Here are my factors. Now, one more step. We have to set them equal to 0 and solve for x. And you will see that x is equal to 3. and x is equal to -2. Yay! Now you can check your solutions. We got 3 and -3. We have to substitute and solve. The square root of 9 is 3. However, if you take a look, I have this negative. The square root of -4 is 2. And -2 is not equal to -2. This does not work. Now why? Why do I have your answer as one correct and one incorrect? Let's take a look. Let's back up. Here we have x. However, here I have x squared. And x squared is equal to x times x. So what happened? I introduced a new value called an extraneous solution. This extraneous solution is a solution that popped up because of our algebra. But it needed to happen in order to solve. However, because we introduced this new variable, one of the variables, or one of our answer, has to be wrong because we introduced that new number. So this incorrect number was -2 in this case. When you introduce a new variable, like we did from here to here, you introduce an extraneous solution, and you have to identify which solution is right or wrong. The way to do that is simply by checking your answer and figuring out which one happens to be right. So -2 is our extraneous solution, giving me only x is equal to 3 as our answer. Now let's try one more before I let you go. So the square root of 4 minus 3x is equal to x. Again, I must square both sides. And that gives me, I'm going to move over to the left, 4 minus 3x is equal to x squared. Subtracting the 4, adding the 3x on both sides, I will get x squared is equal, not equal to, x squared is 0 is equal to x squared plus 3x minus 4. Sorry for that. Now, what are the factors of -4 that add to 3? Hopefully you would have saw that it's 4 times -1. 4 times -1, -4. 4 minus 1, positive 3. Break these up into factors. X plus 4, x minus 1, setting both equal to 0. X plus 4 is equal to 0. X minus 1 is equal to 0. Minus 4 on both sides. X is equal to 4. And x is equal to 1. Now, which one is the right answer? Because remember, we introduced an extraneous solution here. So we must substitute. I'm going to go with the 1. Square root of 4 minus 3 times 1 is equal to 1. Square root of 4 minus 3, square root of 1 is equal to 1, and that gives me 1 is equal to 1. So this is my answer, while the 4 is my extraneous solution. That is not my answer. Hopefully that was enough for you. This was great. Keep up the hard work. Let me know if you have any questions. Good luck.